All right. I'm live. I'm live. This is your favorite coach. Love the game 24_7. Your favorite coach. Don't wreck yourself. You check yourself. That's what we said. It's your favorite coach. Love the game 24/7. Coach Smith. Your favorite coach. I know y'all out there. I know some of y'all might be a Friday night. Don't see basketball game. So you can see how my referee very long. But hey, I know y'all. I got 3 to do games tonight. I'm on. I'm live. We're here to talk about my football camp. We're here to talk about the Super Bowl. This is Radio Row on social media. Radio Row, NFL Radio Row with Coach Smith, your favorite coach. We love the game 24/7. My website on here. Here you go. Check your stuff. There we go. I need to put this on. What's up, Adrian? I hear you. What's up? I see. I'm gonna give my. If you're still in high school, middle school, you put my website on here. You can get my information on here. Here we go. Y'all joining me? I see you, Adrian. What grade are you, Adrian? You a ball player? Let me know. Yes, sir. Let me know. Appreciate y'all joining, Coach Smith. Let's get the folks um, on my IG live going, getting on. I got some folks on here on the YouTube live. Got some folks on Facebook live. Um, yes, sir. I'm gonna be on every day this week. Leading up to the Super Bowl this week. Usually I'm on a couple of times a week. Um, Adrian. But yeah, I'm gonna load it up, man. Share this information too. You know, with as many people you know, these young athletes out here and parents need help with the recruiting process. And I love talking about that because I've been through it personally. Took a lot of kids that I've coached have gone through it and got scholarships. Some are going to NFL, like my son is going to the NFL. So, you know, I know a little bit about what I'm talking about. I got 25 years in financial aid and learning how to get grants and scholarships. So I kind of combined it and put all that together to help people. That's, you know, that's my goal, is to help as many people as possible. And so, Adrian, I appreciate you tapping in and liking my, you know, my content on here. I was just on TikTok live for a little bit before I jumped on my IG and YouTube and Facebook. But you know, I'm on here to talk about, you know, hey, what's going on with the Super Bowl? You know, all those good things. Who you got for the Super Bowl coming up? You got those Eagles or you got those Chiefs, right? You know, let's talk a little bit about that. I had some great conversation last night. Had one of my guests jump on. Yep. Yeah, I definitely do it, man. I definitely put. You know, I got a lot of content that I use through Opus Clips to put out, like, you know, several videos. I didn't do it the past couple of days because I've been busy, as you can see. Been busy doing some referee duties. So I had to hustle. And I appreciate the TikTok trend, Adrian with TikTok Trends. I appreciate you sharing that info, giving me that tip about my content and making sure I post some stuff. And I definitely do that, you know, to help make sure the word get out to these young athletes and parents who want to play sports, college sports, and beyond. You know, some people want to, you know, other people beyond want to go beyond college if they have that opportunity. And so that's what Love the Game 24/7 with your favorite coach, Coach Smith. I've always said recruiting is recruiting, right? Whether you're male or female, and regardless of what sport you play. You know, it's recruiting is recruiting. You know, we just got some new tools with technology that's helping us get it done, right? Helping us get it done today. As y'all can see, I gotta keep myself updated on what games are on. This USC Purdue game is a good one. So yeah, you know, I gotta keep plugged in. I got nephews that's playing basketball back home in Florida, good athletes. Yes, sir. Be sure you share. I'll make sure I follow you on Adrian on TikTok Trends. I'll make sure I get connected with you. TikTok Trends. Let me see if I can find you. Make sure I follow you. TikTok Trends, okay. But yeah, share that information. I'm just waiting for some more folks to jump on so we can have some conversation about who has who for this Sunday's Super Bowl, right? But you know, I can go ahead and just talk about the camp on March 29th, the skill development camp. I just had somebody ask me that was on my TikTok live. They asked the question, you know, how do you know you have a D1 caliber athlete, you know, as a parent, whether they're male or female? And you know, like I said to them, that's a great question. How do you know? Well, one way you're going to know that you have a D1 caliber young athlete as a parent, you know, your child, is you got to get them at a D1 caliber camp around D1 caliber talent, so they can see how. So you, as a parent, can see how they match up and things that you need to do to help them either achieve that or progress to that level. You got to start out young with them early, right? You have to do that. I started out with my son in 7th grade. I mean, I grew up when I was growing up, and the time I grew up, I mean, I was following behind my older brothers and his friends, right? We used to play a game. We used to call it Kill the Carrier, and they used to set me up because I was dumb. You young, you just happy because you with your older brother and hanging with your older brother and friends, and they would toss me around. I was a running back. I learned how to be tough. I learned how to do my juking and all that stuff, playing with my older brothers, and because for one, he was probably mad because half the time I had to go with him and he had to keep eyes on me, keep tabs on me, because that's what you were required to do by your parents, right? When a little brother had to go with you, a little sister had to go with you sometimes. So kids today aren't out aren't outside as much as we were growing up. I mean, it is what it is. Um, but there are some kids who do spend time outside, and if they are, and those kids are probably the ones that are more developed. Some kids who do spend a little more time um, outside, um, doing things like we did. There are some kids who still do that because some parents are doing that. Um, I didn't let my kids go off by themselves, but I would go take them out and do stuff. I would take them to the basketball court. I would set up cones and make them do basketball drills and play games and stuff with them and some of their friends and take them up to the court and make them compete against each other when they were like, elementary and middle school. And when it was football season, I do the same thing. I get the cones and take them through drills because as a dad, I was trying to see where my kids were and some of their friends where they were as far as their talent level. So as somebody who just loves sports and just knew, hey, let me get the kids out here, especially boys and even some girls. Hey, let me get them out here and run around and exert some of that energy and get them out of the house, right? So I would take them up the street to the park, periodically. It wasn't an everyday thing, but I did as much as I could because I was working. And you just can't trust people too much today, like we did. You had to be careful back then too. We just know more things today because of social media, right? And cable TV and all this different stuff that we have. We're just inundated with news and reports at the tip of our fingers that we didn't have when I was a kid growing up. So since we didn't have all that, and we had parents who were very strict about the TV, because I know if we had computers back when I was growing up, they would have been strict on us about that as well. They would have made us go outside, right? And so I tried to incorporate some of those same things with my kids as much as I could, but a lot of time and energy was with me taking them to the park and spending that time with them, and just me wanting to see where my kids were from a talent level in sports. I mean, I had them play in baseball. We had them in soccer and basketball. We did a lot of different things as they were growing up. And then when I felt like they were at an age in middle elementary, late elementary, I would take them out there and have them do drills with cones and set things up and make them do little competitions with each other on the basketball court before we even would play a game against each other, right? And then as they got older, we didn't do the cone drill stuff as much. Sometimes they wanted to, but as they got older, hey, you get right into the game, and hopefully they'll learn some of those additional drills that they need to learn by getting on a basketball team and going through practice with an actual basketball team and a coach. And so they did some of that with the church league, but they were more into football and baseball in high school. But that's how you learn on whether your kid's a Division I caliber kid, is that you got to get them around kids their age, no matter if it's elementary, middle, or high school age, and you got to get them to the D1 camps because they are looking. Okay, and you got to start your kids at a young age so they get that shockness, that shock value out of them, or that fear, or whatever they have, or a little panic mode. You got to put them in the element. You got to talk to your kid and you got to encourage them. You got to put them in the elements, right? You got to put them in the elements so they get familiar and used to and comfortable with competing. And so you have to start that at a young age. Now some kids, because some kids who like us, you just grow up poor and you're in your community, some tight community, you learn all that stuff, man, just period. You just learn it in the hood, in the neighborhoods, right? You just learn some of that stuff. and it can be a poor white neighborhood, black, Latino, doesn't matter, or mixed. You learn though, and you pick up on those things when you're young in certain communities that we're in. Our kids today have grown up um, um, not as poor. I'm not saying we don't still have some poor kids, but of course we do in all generations and races and nationalities. We all have poor. Um, but a lot of us have done better than what our parents did when we grew up. And so our kids are a little spoiled. And if we don't take the initiative as a parent to be sure that we put them in some situations where they have to deal with some adversity and perseverance, but you make sure you're close by to where things aren't like an abusive or over the top situation. You know what I mean? So um, definitely got to be involved. My parents were involved. My dad coached me and my brothers and many of my friends and their dads. They coached us in little league sports. Um, so wasn't too much of that nonsense going on in my community. Not saying it wasn't some stuff happening. Of course, some things happened, but I don't remember too much stuff happening because our parents were involved. That's just my experience. One of my buddies, we talk about that all the time. We talked where he went to college at FSU. I went to a small Division II school in Iowa, and I remember we would talk. Even still today, we talk about how he shares stories with guys he went to college with, and they're just like blown away with how we grew up in South St. Pete. Some single parents, some I had both my parents for a time, and then lost my father to cancer, and all of a sudden become single mom. Things are even tighter and tougher now, but because I had those things instilled in me early, it kept me and my brothers moving forward to want to accomplish something and go off to college and play ball. So, but those are the things you have to do so your kid, when he goes to these camps, they're not overwhelmed, right? They're not freaked out or just like I said, mainly overwhelmed, right? And the other way you're going to determine whether your kid is a D1 caliber kid is you got to get them out there doing drills. Now, some of y'all don't know what drills to do. That's why I said you got to invest in your kids, right? And you got to find somebody you trust, and you're going to have to come out your pocket and pay because people, they spend time away from their families, coaching up your kids, and they're now training kids, and they deserve to get paid, whoever they are, and they're legit. You need to pay them. I did it, and now I'm training people. And so, there are people who I thank God that I could find and give my son a good quarterback coach because I couldn't coach him, but so far. I didn't play quarterback. I was a running back. So I had to find somebody and pay somebody, right? And it was worth the investment. When your son gets that full scholarship that costs hundreds of thousands of dollars, it's not coming out of my pocket. I invested maybe 80 or 100,000, maybe over all the years, probably more, but if we really took time to look at it. But when it got to those important years, or what I'm saying, like that middle school and high school age, I invested and I got a great return on my investment, for both my kids. The youngest one got academic scholarships, and because I work in financial aid and know it and familiar with it, and would tell him these are the things you need to do. Dad can't give you no scholarship. You're gonna have to learn. I'm gonna give you the information so you can, put your name in the hat, so you can figure out how to get scholarships. Oh, your mom works at the hospital. You need to check to see if they give out scholarship money. And guess what? Wife didn't even know her hospital employer when she was working bedside for the hospital back home in St. Pete. Didn't even know they gave scholarship money to their employees' children. But because I knew, and I tell parents, check with your employers that you work for, check with your HR department, because some of the people you work for, and sometimes they don't like to publicize it, right? But when you go ask, they have to tell you. They can't keep it silent. Because if you find out that they gave some money to somebody, and when you went and asked, and they didn't tell you about it, but somebody else went and asked and got money, they'll get in trouble. So that's why you need to ask, right? And I know as a man of faith, the word of God tells me, you have not because you ask not. So you better ask. So you start having. and ask with good intentions to do something with it, right? And I think most of us will be asking with good intentions. So, but I'm gonna go by what the good book says. It says you have not because you ask not. So we can't go around complaining about why we didn't get something because we didn't ask. But then you got to make sure when you go ask, is your child equipped to get that scholarship with their GPA, right? With their community service, right? And if they're playing a sport, are they putting in time to develop? Are you investing in your kid to get trained? You just can't rely on your high school coach. Your high school coach got a lot of stuff going on. He got a lot of kids, or she got a lot of kids, right? It's not that they, you got some that don't really care, don't take it as serious as coaches, but you got some that do care, but they don't have the bandwidth, they don't have the resources. So you got to jump in there as well. You can't. I wouldn't be relying just on my coach. I didn't just rely on my son coach, even though he was one of the greatest coaches, I think, in high school sports, Coach Davis, and he did everything he could. He did above and beyond with helping his kids get, his athletes that played for him. He did anything he could, talk to as many college recruiters that came through that door, and would send emails, phone calls. He would do whatever. But I still stayed involved. I still took the initiative to stay on top of my own son's recruiting. It wasn't my coach. It wasn't my and I was a coach. I was on the staff, so I didn't just leave it to my head coach, who I was on staff with, just because my son was playing. I didn't just leave it for him. He's the one that told me, hey, go to this. He realized my son is a quarterback, right? Because you know how some parents come and want their kid to play quarterback. And I told him I wish my son wasn't good at quarterback. I wish he was good at something else, because I know how it is. But he is what he is, and that's so. So he's like, yeah, he is a quarterback. You need to get him over here. I don't train anymore like I used to, but I got a guy. Coach John Kalil played at the University of Maryland with the founder of Under Armour. They were teammates, and I happened to play with John Kalil, two of his offensive linemen from his community college at Montgomery Community College in Maryland that doesn't have football anymore. I don't understand that, because it was it was a pretty good JUCO football program, Montgomery Community College in Maryland. So I'm just telling you folks, if you want to know if you got a D1 caliber kid, you got to set them up for success. And too many times I see them, you're not setting them up for success. You set them up for failure. Some kids got to fight through it. Because remember, I've said, if you follow me and you've listened to some of my content, and maybe you're not, I don't know if you have or not. Let me jump back over on YouTube. I've shared about how, you have to make sure you invest, right? You have to make sure you get your kids the training that they need, right? And I've said, this is what I was going to say. I kind of lost my train of thought for a minute, so I was kind of just rambling just so I could think, but I stayed on point. But the thing I was wanting to say is you have to be sure, as you doing all those things I said, right, that I just said and just explained, you have to be sure, okay, that your young athlete, okay, is committed, right, committed to it. And you have to be sure as a parent that, you don't get yourself, you don't want it more than they do. They have to want it just as much, if not more, than you do. Okay. But I've said most of the scholarships on some other podcasts, I've mentioned it several times. There's teams that this is what makes up a team. Good players, right? Good players, really good players, great players, and really great players, right? But there's not as many great and really great players as there are good and really good players. Okay. Most of the teams are made up of good and really good players. And those are the ones that are fighting for most of the scholarships. Because the great and really great players, because it's only a few, they get picked up early. Right. But the good and really good players are the ones, that's where it's all bunched up. Like, okay, who has the edge, and then it's all about timing, right? Then it's all about timing, right? With you good and really good players, okay? And it's also about your development, okay? So it's about timing, just like I tell people about applying for scholarships. I mean, as soon as you see a scholarship opportunity come available, you better put your name. That's why you better have some essays and things already. You better have about 3 to 5 essays already written on some different topics. Because rest assured, when you apply for some of these scholarships, they're gonna ask them the same questions, or they're gonna just tell you, "Hey, send us an essay." They may not even give you a topic. They'll just leave. They'll leave it for you to get, to write about a topic. So you should already have about 3 or 5 very well written essays that you already had proofread by, not mom and daddy, aunt, uncle, your professor, somebody like that. Not mom and dad who are always gonna say everything is great. In most cases, some parents won't. They'll tell you the real deal. But you should already have about 3 or 5 essays already in your toolkit, sitting there to be used, copied and paste. You just need to make sure you're sending it to the right scholarship application, and that you have the right people's name on there. You're not mixing and matching. So you copy and paste. But like I said, I've said this before, is it's the good and really good player fighting for the bulk of the scholarships. And if you haven't found your edge by getting your training, by coming to like my March 29th skills development camp, so you can learn how to run your 40 right, how to have a good start. Because you can't really teach a coach speed. Let me say this right. If you're fast, you're fast. Okay, if you got some speed, you got some speed. But there's still, even if you have some speed, there's some of you athletes out there still don't know how to do a start in a 40-yard dash and run a 40-yard dash correctly. Okay, there's some guys who I've known just flat out fast. They don't care. It don't matter how they start. They can just get out. You just know they fast, right? And that's that great and really great players I'm talking about. Now I knew I had some speed, and I did. But when I got the coaching, when I got the development on how to start from running track from 7th grade and all the way through college, and I learned the skill. We can say secret if we want to say a secret, but I learned the skill of how to start to make sure that I had that 4.3 and that 4.29, right, is going to catch people's attention. I came from little Morningside College. Who was this kid from Morningside College coming in running 4.29 and 4.31? And then they asking, like, how you end up where you ended up as fast as you are? And then when you start putting them pads on, and they see you aren't scared. I ain't scared to run the football. I ain't scared to go up against a 240, 50-pound linebacker. I will smash you. I was one of them little gnats, right? Every bit of 180, 85 pounds. When I got older, I started putting a little bit of weight on, but I will smash you. You're not gonna just run me over. You're gonna know you hit something, right? And I'm gonna technique you to death when it comes to blocking. I'm gonna get on them hips and them thighs, and I know big guys don't like that. But see, I'm already down there. I'm just under 5'10", right around 5'10", so I'm already low. So I already got an advantage as a blocking running back. And then when I come out the backfield, you think you're gonna guard me as a linebacker or a safety, even a corner. You got another thought coming, because I was gonna do work on you, because I put time in. I put time in with other people who showed me and trained me what I needed to do. And there's times I would go out to the field by myself, nobody throwing me the football, but I would simulate getting the handoff and cutting and doing different things. Sometimes when I couldn't find somebody to go to the field with me, I didn't stop that from letting me go to the gym and then getting on the field and doing some field work. Then I know I need to do some film work or go do some practice on some starts. Even when I didn't have anybody out there to watch me, I knew what I need to work on, and if I had a bad start or not, because I had done it so much, right? Till I knew it like the back of my hand, because I practice, right? So, that's how you would determine that, and you gotta If you got a kid, my older son, he loved that stuff like I did. And you have to keep it fun, even as you develop and go to the next levels. It becomes more of a business. You got to keep that fun and enjoyable side. I enjoyed going out training, man, working on that 40 time. So when it came down to me going to a camp, I had put so much work and time in getting my start right in training weeks in advance, right? And going out to the field 2 or 3 times a week, weeks, months in advance. Just weight room, working out, doing, playing a little ball, so when you do those kinds of things, you put that kind of time in, man, it's like second nature, right? Just like you tell a guy that's dribbling a basketball, he's been in, everywhere he goes, he has a basketball and dribbling it, and making mistakes, right? And so when it's time to, really ball out, he's not gonna make those mistakes because he's made all those mistakes practicing, putting work in and putting time in the dark. And I remember it was a kid, I forget his name right now, played at Duke, but he was an Iowa kid when I was in college, in high school. And then I remember he was one of the top guards. And he shared about how his dad told him, hey, go in the garage and it's dark and dribble the basketball. So you couldn't see it. So you'll learn how to know how to bounce that ball, where it's gonna land in a dark garage. So when it's lit up, his head is up, and he's just dribbling the ball like he was doing. He was in the garage all them time, all them hours he spent in the garage dribbling the basketball in the dark, where you couldn't see. So when he got in the light in the game and practice and all that stuff, it was like an extension of his body. He got so used to dribbling that basketball to it was just like another part of his body to where he, very seldom did he ever turn a basketball over like Kyrie. You see Kyrie has spent time dribbling that basketball, doing the things that he does. Right? That stuff y'all see him doing in a game, he's practiced that stuff on air, against people in practice since he's been a kid. He's been doing that. Steph Curry, same thing. They've been doing that stuff. So that's what makes a difference. Right. And of course there's some kids who just are blessed. It's in their genes. And if they spend some time at all working out, they're gonna be pretty good. But if they don't, they won't. Right. So that was a good question that was asked on my TikTok live earlier prior to coming on to here on Facebook and YouTube and IG with you good folks. But yeah, so for some of you guys who are here on the show, you got some questions like who you got for the Super Bowl? Let's talk a little bit about that. Who you have for the Super Bowl? This is my NFL social media live radio row for just us folks out here in social media land, right? Live on YouTube, TikTok, IG. This is Radio Row with Coach Smith and Love the Game 24/7 leading up to the Super Bowl. So I want to just spend some time with you all this evening. I did last night, had some great conversation on IG. Invited one of my guests to join me on IG Live, and we had some good conversation while we had other folks who had joined in. So yeah, you're more than welcome. Hey, if you got some questions, put them in the chat. Put your questions in the chat, and I'll try to answer them. And get back, get your questions answered, get your, and let me just say this too, that another question that was asked on my TikTok live about, how do you know if you have a D1 caliber, athlete, as a parent? And then the other question is, how do you make sure that your athlete, when they go to these camps, because there's so many kids there, to make sure they stand out. And as I said, if you've been putting time in if you go somewhere like my March 29th skills development camp, well in advance before these camps get ready to start. I know I've been on DMing coaches, college coaches a day, back at Boston College. One of the coaches, he's now a coach on the staff, but he was a GA when my son was at BC. I was DMing him today because he was like, "Hey man, we need some kids like your son." He's like, "Yeah, I was here when your son was here as a grad assistant." And he's like, "Man, if you got some kids like your son, man, we be sure you hit me up, coach." You know, and he's like, he's gonna put me in contact with the coaches that recruit areas where I know kids are, like in, Texas, back home in Florida, of course, and here in North Carolina. And I just shared that had a young man that I've been working with. He's like my nephew, my wife's best friend's son. He got a preferred walk on to Oklahoma. And you got to get in where you fit in, right? And it don't matter how you get there, it's how you finish. So get there. So he got there with a preferred walk-on opportunity. Another young man that I'm working with here locally in North Carolina where I live, he got his offer, D2 offer. Johnson C. Smith, very good D2, powerhouse football. I think they're on the come up. Johnson C. Smith will be. So they got some solid recruits, and he got offered. So, but I was DMing another coach out of University of Nevada that's from Florida, from back home in my area in Florida, Lakeland area, where a lot of my family are from. My mother and father are from that area. He's an O-line coach, and he's familiar with where I coach high school football in Florida. So we were DMing and talking back and forth on X. And so did me and a coach from Boston College. These coaches are always looking, right? They're always looking. And whenever they can get a contact, somebody like me who knows and sees players, and I have an in because I played and I have a son that played and playing pro ball. So in a lot of instances, I will get a coach's ear because they know if I've played ball myself and have a son that played or a daughter that played major college sports in pro ball, that I got to know something, right? Because I coached him most of his life, right? So, and he got to the NFL. So these coaches know, when I put that out there and say, "Hey, look, I'm a coach. I coached in Florida for 12 years. I got a son that played. Just a current NFL athlete." That's going to get a coach's ear because they know I know what I'm talking about because I raised the kid and I did it myself and played ball, right? And so I want to use that influence to help other young athletes and parents to get put on, right? Hopefully that your son or daughter, right? Because I've always said, you guys have always heard me say, recruiting is recruiting, right? Whether you're male or female, and regardless of what sport you play. It's all the same. We just have some great tools today to help us get in front of people. But if you're going to get in front of people, you better be ready to show what you can do. Too many times kids get in front of people and they aren't ready because you didn't invest like you should, like coming to LoveTheGame247.com skills development camp or something, or you didn't train properly because you don't know what to do. You don't know what you don't know. You may be out there running, right? You may be out there running. That's good. That's cool. But you may not be out there training in the right things, the right way. It's going to help you put up the numbers because these camps, when you go to these college camps, if you haven't practiced for weeks well in advance, you're going to go and wreck yourself because you didn't check yourself. And so that's what I want to prevent with my March 29th camp, because these camps are going to get kicked off, right? They got, and coming up in March, into February, beginning of March, you got the college pro days, and then you got the April draft for the NFL, and then you got May college spring football, and then end of May coming into June, you got all these colleges will be doing their football camps. And the reason why I was talking to the coach at BC, hey, what's up, Quiet Storm? Appreciate you joining me on IG. I'm just sharing, the reason why the coach from BC, from Boston College, reached out to me because I had wanted to find out because I saw they posted something about their mega camp in June where they're going to have Division I, FCS Division I, and they're going to have the D2 and D3 schools at their mega camp. That's why they call it a mega camp, because they're going to have college coaches from various other schools and levels on June 1st in Boston College. And so, and because my son played there, you know, and there's a coach that's there that knows of my son and said to me, you know, he said to me on my DM when we were talking back and forth today, he's like, man, you know, we need more kids like your son was here. He was like, I was here when your son was here. And he was a great player for us. And he's like, you know, you got any kids that you know, coach, you know, send them my way, hit me up. And whatever state they're in, I'll find the coach that's in that area with kids that you're working with. And I'm going to look at some film. You send me some film, I'm going to look at it. And I'm going to critique and tell you what you need to work on. But I'm having my camp to help you guys learn what to do. So when you go back home after leaving Coach Smith camp on March 29th here in Wilmington, you'll know what you need to be doing and what you need to work on. And if you're in the area, if you're in North Carolina where I am and you want some training, some combine training, you can sign up and get some private work and private training with Coach Smith if you need it, if you're in my area. But too many kids I've working college camps, because I worked quite a few college camps in my day when my son was going through, and even when I was still coaching high school after he was in college, and I was still coaching high school ball. Still, I go to camps and see kids not knowing how to start, how to stand out. And that was the question that was given to me on my TikTok live early the day before I got on IG and my YouTube and Facebook. The question was how can you have your athletes stand out when they go to these camps? And how do you know if they're a Division I caliber kid? You let those D1 coaches tell you whether your kid is a D1 caliber kid. But you got to put them out. You got to put them in the D1 camps and get around D1 talent so they can compare. So you can see as a parent, and so your athlete can see where they size up against with these kids who are D1 caliber kids. And you've been around the game, sports long enough. You see what kids out there catch on quick. But like I said, there's some kids that develop fast, but it's gonna catch up with them, especially once they get to college. That talent's gonna catch up. Some kids develop a little later than others, but so don't get down about it. Just put the work in. If you put the work in, you're gonna see some results. But you got to put some serious, legitimate work in, the right kind of work. And some of your kids aren't putting that work in, and you go to these camps and you don't turn out or stand out like you should because you didn't prepare good. And so you got to prepare. And you got to get around people who know how to help you prepare, right? And so my website is on the chat. So if you got a question, I see a Quiet Storm is drawn. If you got a question, who you got for the Super Bowl? If you want to share some of that info, like who you got for the game, let's talk some of that as well. On this is what I call my radio row live for the NFL over social media platforms, right? Because I know the NFL does theirs. The pivot, Pat McAfee, the facility. I think that's what they call it with Acho and his boys. And of course, First Take, and you got, Shannon Sharp and Ocho doing their thing at night, late night. They had Dion on there last night. He was on First Take today. Dion was on First Take. Y'all see, I got my TV on. I don't play. I stay plugged in. I'm trying to help you. I've been there, done that. Right. I got my son playing as a pro athlete. So I've been there. My older brother was a pro athlete. I was a pro athlete. It was short-lived, but I was there. Right. Better than not being there. I was blessed and thankful to get as far as I did. And from that experience, I taught my son and other kids who who I knew had the ability to get there to help them get there, and talk to them about what they need to do at a young age. And so everything I knew to do, I coached my son up doing it. Both my sons up doing it. My oldest son just decided he was gonna run with it and do what dad and his uncle did. His one uncle did, and he made it farther than we did. 5, 6 seasons, 5, 6 years of NFL, and hopefully still going. Hopefully he gets another shot this upcoming season. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, man, let's talk. What kind of question you got? You got a young athlete. You got some questions about the recruiting process. You want to talk about the Super Bowl. You want to do some trash talking. I don't do much trash talking. I like to have some discussion about who we think gonna win it. But I don't really have any skin in the game because I'm a Buccaneers fan from back home. So my Bucks aren't in it. But it would be great to see Mahomes win 3 straight. So we'll stop hearing that chit chat about who the GOAT is, and there's a lot of people we can say are GOATs, and there's quite a few guys. You have to look at during their era. I had a good discussion with one of my guests on my IG last night, and brought up a good point. Maybe we have to see we can talk about who was the GOAT of their era, because a lot of, like he said, he don't know about a lot of the people I grew up watching. He only knows of them a little bit watching video, but I got to watch some of Gale Sayers. I got to watch some of Walter Payton, Tony Dorsett. Who else was out there? Chuck Muncie, Roger Craig. Who else was out there? Robert Newhouse. Him and Dorsett were off the chain for the Cowboys. Then you had Franco Harris and those guys. Who else did I watch? Because I was always running back. It was always with me, OJ, Gale Sayers, Walter Payton, and Dorsett were people I watched, and also Eric Dickerson and Craig James were two. The Pony Express back at SMU. In those days, there were 2,000-yard rushes in the backfield. That's crazy. Well over 1,000-yard rushing. So I think with them combined, they probably rushed for almost 3,000 yards with the two of them in the backfield at SMU, just killing people. So that was Craig James, and Craig James played for the Patriots, and ED played for the Rams and the Colts. So but yeah, so I'm trying to, almost Marcus Allen was another one that I watched. But my favorites are Gale Sayers, Walter Payton, and Tony Dorsett. Probably my favorite running backs that I watched growing up. There's some few other ones out there, but those are the ones I can. I love, and Roger Craig was another one of my favorites too, like watching, because he was always high knee action. Roger kept that. ED was a bad boy too. That was my childhood. So, who do you have for the Super Bowl out there? Any more questions before Coach Smith, your favorite coach, signs off and chills for the rest of the evening? I'll be back tomorrow. Again, tomorrow is Saturday, but I'll be on earlier. I won't be on. I know I got some games I may have a train. I gotta see if I got a training to do tomorrow, but I'll be on early tomorrow. If it's not, I know I gotta do some refereeing. As you see, I got my referee stuff on because I had a JV game. Been busy coaching, been busy refereeing basketball all season. So I had a lot of games this week and past couple of weekends, and I have about 4 games tomorrow from 1:15 to 4:15. Yeah, 1:15 to 5:15. So yeah, I have 4 games tomorrow. 1:15 to 5:15 is what I have tomorrow. So most of the games last an hour, running clock. I'm not sure, probably middle school age kids. But yeah, I had some good intel. But one thing I'm gonna tell you, here's the thing I'm gonna tell you, what's gonna happen to a lot of young athletes. Y'all gonna want to sign up, and you're gonna miss signing up for my camp because it's gonna fill up. Because we're not trying to have too many people. We want to have just enough that we can work with. It's gonna be a cutoff. Because I didn't see it happen. I done been around long enough to know. And then you're gonna, of course, you're gonna have people that want to walk up. We might take a few walk-ups, but if we may not be able to, when we get to a certain number, we probably won't take any walk-ups. But like I said, I see people that you're late, you didn't get signed up, you missed the deadline, and it's like, woe's me. I'm telling you, it happens, and I'm not gonna do it because I want those ones who signed up early enough to be sure they get the attention that they deserve because they got signed up like they needed to. So I'm telling you, you got some time. So it's March 29th, the last Saturday of March. Our website is out there, lovethegame247.com. But it never fails. Some of y'all gonna be Johnny come lately, and Johnny gonna have to miss out. Or a little have to miss out if she plays football. Because you didn't get signed up in time. So I'm just letting you know while I'm live. While I know a lot of people will be jumping on, probably more. I'll probably have more people on. I had a good number of people last night that jumped on. And I have some people tomorrow doing the early part of the day when I get on. And I'm gonna say it again tomorrow. Don't be those Johnny come lately and Johnny be missing and not get the opportunity to get developed and learn what he needs to do so he stands out when he goes to these camps later this summer, when he goes to his college camps. This is pre-college camp training that you need, right? This is pre-college camp stuff because they're gonna take you through the combine type stuff like they're gonna do these pros come April. So if you big on football, watch the pro days. If you can, watch some pro days. Watch the NFL combine, right? Watch those things, you young football players, so you can learn about what you need to go work on, and find you a trainer to help time you and help watch you, video you, and show you what it is that you need to work on. So I'm just letting you all know, don't be late and miss the opportunity to get your child the skills development they need if they love the game, if they love football, or whatever sport they do find it. I'm talking football with Coach Smith right now. Don't be Johnny come lately and Johnny has to miss out and get him the training that he needs to help him stand out when he goes to these camps later this summer. And you didn't come to the Love the Game 24/7 March 29th camp. Because we're going to have some good coaches out there. We're going to show you what you need to work on. So when you go back home with your trainers or dad or mom is out there with you, right? You heard Lamar Jackson talk about how his mom will be out there with him. All right, appreciate you joining. Appreciate you joining me, my man, as always. But don't be late and you miss your opportunity to register. Right? Don't miss your opportunity to register. When I cut it off. And I don't want to have to cut it off too soon, but when we get that number, so I'm telling you, get to lovethegame247.com. Get yourself registered. Right? I'm working on things behind the scenes with some folks to be sure, we'll have lunch and things like that we'll serve. Because I want the kids to stay there and have a little something to eat because it's going to be a full day of getting to getting the training that you need, getting the development that you need. So when you go to these camps in the summer, because you're going from after you come to my camp in March, you're gonna go home for them before June 1st come around or late May come around when these camps start. You're gonna put that work in from what you learned at my March 29th camp, right? And you're gonna get through whatever basketball season you're in, if you're doing basketball or lacrosse or track and field, whatever other sport you play in. You're gonna get through the season, because the end of March, basketball pretty much is gonna be winding down. So we'll be out of basketball. Track may be kind of, picking up a little bit, because you won't probably have states until May, I'm thinking, in track and field, when it's close to school being out for a lot of you guys. So but get yourself signed up. Don't miss your opportunity. I'm telling you, man, I wish I would have had. Well, let me say this: we did have it growing up, because it was my high school where everybody came back to. So I didn't have to pay for it during my time. And when my kids were growing up, I took them out to do it. So they got it free because Daddy knew he was, because then his, and so I took my sons out there, both of them. Even my younger son, who didn't continue to play on in college like his older brother did, but I took them and their friends out there, because I was coaching. I was coaching Little League in high school. So, and I was coaching high school when my sons were still playing Little League, so I can get acclimated to high school coaching. And so, and that's what I did. But I knew what to do from my own experience. So I would take my kids and some other kids and, like, hey, get my cones. I would take them out there and drill them. I could have been charging people back then, but I didn't. I was coaching, but I knew the things to do to take my, if you were a friend of my son's and you play ball, hey, you came along, you put that, I got them to put work in to help them and their friends who played it. I appreciate that, my man on IG, my buddy on IG. This my picture. I appreciate it, but I'm trying to tell you, if you don't put the time in to where these things become like second nature to you, like it wasn't nothing for me. I thrived off going to workouts, because I knew what I was about to do. I knew I was about to get people's attention to be like, oh man, who is that? Because I knew what kind of work I put in weeks, months in advance, in the gym, on the field. So when it came for me to do that stuff, because of how I was taught, oh man, I was like, oh, this is my time, this is my show, right? And I've been places where they actually literally, especially when it was time to try to play pro ball, like when arena football was growing, or going to some of these camps, these pro camps, trying to get attention. And you're literally talking about maybe 200 running backs, 200 plus running backs, 300 plus wide receivers, tons of quarterbacks. I'm telling you what the numbers were, literally, 200 DBs. You're talking hundreds of guys in all positions. And all they do is take you through these skills training to see who's developed, who hasn't developed, who got clumsy feet, right? Who don't have the guys who have confident feet, or who don't know what cover 3 is, how to do man-to-man, don't know how to use proper technique to guard a wide receiver, and you're going up against somebody who knows what they're doing, and you're gonna get embarrassed, right? And then and literally the first hour after they take you through the 40 and the short shuttle, they start cutting people. They start telling them, if you hear your name called, we appreciate you coming. And in some of those places will cost a little bit of money. It might cost you, $50, $80, $100 to get in. Some of these camps. I wasn't gonna let my money go to waste. I love the game 24/7. I love the game too much, and I know what kind of work I put in. I wasn't gonna go and embarrass myself and disappoint myself after all that time I spent training. And I wasn't gonna say I was perfect, but I did enough to be sure I stayed around until the numbers got down to maybe 15, 20 running backs to start a camp. And we started out early that morning with 200, and we've been out there all day. And you gotta bring your A game. You know, every time they took you to another session, people they dropping people off who really wasn't skilled, who really probably shouldn't have been there, right? And they're keeping the guys around. I kept getting through the different phases, and I'm telling you, that's how it is. And you gotta love the game, right? And then ultimately get myself an invite somewhere, or sign a contract. That's what it's all about. So you can't expect great results and you ain't put great preparation in. And I'm telling you, when you come to my camp, you're gonna get what you need. Then it's gonna be up to you to do what you need to do. Once you get taught and coached up, it's gonna be your job to take care of your business, right? After you get this coaching, and it's on you to get it done. So parents, like I said, this camp that I'm doing is to help prepare them before they go to the real deal. For coaches to determine who they're going to continue to follow and watch. But like I said, I already had 2 Division I schools coaches, college coaches, talking to me today. Back at BC, where my oldest son played, he was a GA when my son was there, and now he's a coach, full-time coach at BC. And told me, he's like, man, I remember your son was here. We need some. If you got some kids like your son, send them my way. I want to know them. So if you got a kid out there, Coach Smith got connections, and I use it to help other people out. So I use that connection. So you got some film, you got some interest, or you want Coach Smith to put eyes on you, because before I pass your name on to somebody, I need to see you. Now, this video, I need to see you physically, so you need to get to my camp, March 29th. You need to get there. So I'm just letting you know. I'm, coaching Nevada, University of Nevada, looking for players, and he's from Florida. He and I DMing and finally telling me where he coached high school ball in Florida before he became the offensive line coach and run game coordinator at University of Nevada. That's Division I football. That's good football out there too. So, I'm DMing with the coach at Boston College, wanting to know. I'm telling you, I got coaches who hit me up, right? And I'm not gonna bring them somebody that's not ready or that I haven't put eyes on and don't, because I gotta keep my name. I gotta keep a good name, right? And if you want coach to put a word in for you, then get to coach camp in March 29th and let me see what you got. Get signed up and come to town and let me see what you have. Parents, get your kids up, let me see what they have. So before I put my name out there on the line, I need to see you. I need to put my physical eyes on you. I need to see what kind of work you've been putting in. Right. I need to see if you have what it takes. If you're coachable and you can follow and listen to, what a coach is trying to tell you to do that's trying to help you do better. So you can get the scholarship that you're looking for to put you on. And if you can do that and you can show some improvement and that you're coachable, well, I'll put you on. And if you can ball, when I look at that video and that film, because see what I want to do and train you and show you what you need to do, it should take your game to another level. You should be confident in going out there balling. Because like I told you, these coaches are already tweeting about where the 2026 kids at, where the 2027 kids at. They're already doing that. Already. I see it every day. They're already looking. They're done with 2025 for the most part. Some of the D2 schools are, D1 schools are pretty much done, but some of the JUCOs and D2s, they still may have some spots to fill, right? So for the most part, not too many D1 schools not having it. They pretty much got this stuff done between December and now, right? And they already knew who they were going at on February 5th because February 5th was National Signing Day, and we are past that now. So I think the quiet period is about to end, but at like 48 hours, I think that ended. But You want to get yourself prepared, come on to Wilmington where Coach Smith is, and let's get this work put in. Let's show you what you need to do. Let me look at you and see what your start looks like and let you see what you need to work on. But that's it. But I'm gonna be back tomorrow and I'm gonna be back Sunday before the game. You know, I'm refereeing, you know, getting that work put in, you know, learning to get more, calling them fouls on people. So but I appreciate y'all joining me tonight. So join me tomorrow. I'll put the word out when I'm gonna go live and give you some time. But I'm gonna be live on TikTok and I'll go live on that for a minute. Then I'll go live on my YouTube and Facebook and IG. So I appreciate y'all joining me tonight. Peace and love always. Let's look forward to talking some Super Bowl stuff, next time as well. All right. Y'all have a great evening. Y'all have a great evening now. All right. And appreciate you joining me. And we'll see you tomorrow. Peace.